Hello, today I'm going to talk about why the New Orleans Saints will win this year's Super Bowl. So today I'm going to give you 3 aspects of the New Orleans Saints that separate themselves from all other 31 teams in the NFL and thus proves the reasons why they will and can win this year's Super Bowl. So let's start off with the offense and more specifically Drew Brees. Now, Drew Brees, as we know, has consistently been one of the best quarterbacks year in and year out over the past decade. But this year has just been different. He is breaking an astonishing record right now, completing almost 77% of his passes, having the highest average quarterback rating out of any other quarterback in the league. And to top that all off, he only has 1 interception. So he's just being really efficient this year, which is one big reason why the Saints are much more successful this year than previous years. This year, his completion percentage, touchdown to interception ratio, and quarterback rating have just been off the charts. Now, one reason why Drew Brees has been able to be this efficient is because of the emergence of our wide receivers core, and more specifically the emergence of Michael Thomas. Michael Thomas has just been that consistent go-getter that the Saints have been lacking since Marquise Colston. And this year he's just proven that he's mature enough to lead this group of receivers, which is really giving Drew Brees an opportunity to just have that throwback option. So if he is in trouble, he can always find that easy completion to 7 to 10 yards to Michael Thomas. He's a player that really helps get first downs and move the chains consistently. And this just adds a key element to the Saints that we have been missing since Marquise Colston's retirement. Now, in order to have a good wide receiving core, you can't only have that one consistent solid receiver. We see many teams with a wide receiver core that just stars on one receiver, but the thing that makes the Saints different is that we can kind of play with anybody on our roster. For example, in this past week, we had Traquan Smith have just an absolutely breakout game against the Philadelphia Eagles, where he catched, I believe, 10 passes, over 100 yards, and a touchdown. And he really was the focus of the offense for that week. So the fact that we have people like Traquan Smith and Austin Carr, Ted Ginn Jr., who's injured, Cameron Meredith, who's also injured, but once they come back, these are the types of players that can really make a difference between an end to a short playoff run and a very long Super Bowl run. And it's the fact that we can switch up the combinations week in and week out, which can really make us very unpredictable. Now let's move on to the running game. So first of all, we have a really complementary running game to the pass offense, and that all starts with Mark Ingram. Now, Mark Ingram is our number 1 power back, you could say, and he's just a really strong running back who can really break through tackles and give us extra yardage when we need them. In short yardage situations, goal line situations, we always have that option where we can just dump the ball off to Mark Ingram and he can just do his thing. I mean, the guy is a former Heisman Trophy winner, and that just speaks for itself. His work ethic, his strength, his commitment to the team, and really after the suspension, our offense has really taken off because it has given us that final cherry on top for that balance to our offense. And speaking of balance, I feel that the perfect complementary back to a big, powerful back, downhill, vertical running back in Mark Ingram is Alvin Kamara. I mean, Alvin Kamara is almost the complete opposite of Mark Ingram. He's more of an outside the tackle runner. He receives more balls and he can be the recipient of more screens. So he's really that explosive play factor, and he's just a touchdown machine. I mean, this guy has the same amount of touchdowns as games played, which is just crazy because he's played for over a season and a half, and he's just a running back. I mean, he can run the ball, he can catch the ball, and he's one of Drew Brees' favorite targets. So he's just another guy that you have to be aware of at all times. And I think the balance posed between Mark Ingram and Alvin Kamara is just a running back tandem that no other team has, which is kind of scary because this just adds to the explosiveness of an offense already led by Drew Brees, and to add a running game to that offense just makes it 100 times more explosive, which leads to more points. I feel that our management has just done a terrific job at scouting such a talent and basically stealing Alvin Kamara out of the 3rd round from the University of Tennessee. Before the University of Tennessee, he actually played for Alabama, but since he didn't get much playing time, he transferred over to Tennessee. The fact that he was able to get noticed by Alabama at that age shows that he's already a talented player. And watching him on the field, he's the most elusive guy on the field, very hard to tackle. So that's why we see a bunch of Alvin Kamara highlights where he just takes a 5, 6, 7 yard screen pass or simple handoff, and he just runs outside the lines, and just basically the other teams trying to chase him down, but they can't, and almost with no effort he scores that touchdown. So he's just a really key piece to our offense, and I believe he was a legitimate steal, and I believe he's more than a 1st round talent. I'd say if there was a redraft in the NFL, he would definitely be a top 32 pick, and that just shows that this guy really, he really can make our team successful and lead us to that elusive Super Bowl that Drew Brees is hopefully going to achieve. Another side note to our run game, and really that has made our offense a bit more dynamic this year than last year, is the opportunity that Sean Payton is giving to Taysom Hill to be that Swiss Army knife for the offense. He's running back kicks, he's tackling on kickoffs, he's making plays left and right, and he's also been implemented in the Wildcat and the read option, where he can fake the handoff inside and bounce on the outside for, a 5 or 6 yard gain. And whenever the defense is playing up, little do they know this former quarterback can, throw a 30-40 yard pass, which can lead to explosive trick plays. And this is just one of the many reasons why the Saints offense has just been able to dissect opposing defenses. Now, for both the passing game and running game to both be effective, I believe that a team needs to have a dominant offensive line, and I feel like this year our offensive line has just totally overachieved. I mean, led by our center, Max Unger, and then on both of his sides we have 2 absolute studs in Teron Armstead and Ryan Ramczyk. Now, as a unit, this group is just so cohesive, and I believe is a top 5 O-line in the NFL. And as long as they can protect Drew Brees and open gaps for Mark Ingram and Alvin Kamara, I feel like that's all they need to do for this team to truly win the Super Bowl. Secondly, in order to truly win a Super Bowl and compete with top tier teams, I believe a team really needs to have a solid defense. And at the beginning of the season, our defense was really lackluster. Giving up 40 points to the Buccaneers, I feel like that didn't represent their true potential. But as the season has come along, many individuals have stepped up to make this defense better. For one, Marcus Davenport was an absolute steal in last year's draft. Unfortunately, due to his injury, our pass rush has stalled a bit, but once he comes back, I feel like when him and Cam Jordan are on either sides of that D line, they can attack that opposing O-line from both sides, which can cause havoc for the opposing pass or run game. Linebacker-wise, I feel like we're really solid. I feel like Demario Davis has really come along and really stood up and become a leader for that unit. And another guy, Anzalone, I mean, last year we didn't really get to see much of him due to injuries, but this year he's just been an absolute force to be reckoned with. He also had a clutch interception at the end of the first half against the Rams, which allowed us a scoring opportunity at the end of the first half. And that scoring opportunity created a lead that we held on to for most of that game. So we have more of these playmaking abilities that can definitely lead to a deep run in the playoffs. However, one thing that does concern me is that secondary. I know we have Marshawn Lattimore, who's reigning Defensive Rookie of the Year, but on the opposite side of him, PJ Williams or whoever they want to play, I think Ken Crawley started for half the season, but if they play consistent, I really feel there isn't any holes in the Saints. I mean, our offense is just dynamite. Every level of it, I feel like no other team has what our offense has. But defensively, if we step it up like we did against the Eagles, the Bengals, and even the Rams, holding them to, below 40 points, they just need to do their part. And as long as you give Drew Brees and Alvin Kamara and Mark Ingram, Michael Thomas, as long as you give them enough time to to score and also to create enough of a window where they don't have to, we don't have to get in this high score game. We can kind of limit the damage from the opposing offense. Then yeah, we definitely have a good shot at winning the Super Bowl. I mean, deep in the playoffs, when we face high potent offenses per se, like the Chiefs or the Rams, like those top tier scoring offenses, if we can hold them to say 20 or 30 points, I feel like our offense is truly more explosive than any other teams. And I feel like we can just play like we did last week against the Philadelphia Eagles. We held the reigning Super Bowl champs to only 7 points, which I feel like is a big accomplishment. Lastly, to be a legitimate Super Bowl contender, I feel like you not only have to have a good offense and defense, but you also need to have a good special teams. And when I recalled our Super Bowl run in 2009, Sean Payton called that gutsy onside kick with Thomas Morstead. Now, I feel like Thomas Morstead is one of those all-around punters that could be really useful in clutch time situations. So just having him and that experience in the Super Bowl in 2009, that experience that he brings as a punter and as a place kicker on onside kick situations, I feel like that could add a little more luck to our team, which is what you really need to win that Super Bowl. And in terms of our kicker, Will Lutz, he's an absolute haymaker. He's really consistent, and that's all you can ask for out of your kicker is as long as he makes kicks, he's on the team. And I feel like he's one of top 10, top 15 kicker in the NFL, and pretty accurate. So in terms of punters and kickers, I feel like we're set. And in kick returning and punt returning, last week they showcased Alvin Kamara on the punt return. I'd like to see a bit more of him, I have to say, in returns, just because of his change of gear that he has. It has that element of those successful kick returners in the past, so seeing Alvin Kamara in that role, it wouldn't hurt. Well, there you have it. I just gave my 3 reasons why the Saints have a chance, and I truly believe they will win the Super Bowl this year. And just to sum it all up, their offense, defense, and special teams, that combination, I feel like, is the best combination currently in the NFL. And I'd like to say thank you for all my listeners throughout the whole video. And as always, have a wonderful day. And I will be uploading more content like this. So I thank you for the views and hopefully you subscribe. Thank you.